Dr. Sunitha ma'am has a PhD and a PGDHE degree and is currently working as the visitor professor at Rose University in South Africa. She is the principal investigator antimicrobial stewardship project at Karuna Trust, Bangalore. Dr. Sunitha ma'am has also worked on new rational use of medicine project at the Policy, Access and Rational Use Unit in the World Health Organization, Geneva, from May from May to July of 2008. She's a visiting professor at B.M. Reddy Acharya College of Pharmacy in Bangalore and is also a mentor and professor at Apex Professional University in Arunachal Pradesh. She has over 40 publications in different renowned international journals, and also she remains the first female full professor in faculty of pharmacy at Rose University and is also the first female professor having National Research Foundation rating. She is the recipient of University of Oxford Fellowship under Association of Commonwealth Universities of Titular Fellowships. She has initiated and managed rational use of medicine program as provincial technical coordinator under Delhi Society of Promotion of Rational Use of Drugs and India World Health Organization Essential Medical Program. It's an honor to have you, ma'am. And without further ado, I would like to hand over the mic to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aditi. It was an absolute pleasure to have that kind introduction. Thank you for personalizing it. And what is really important for me today is, Aditi, if you can just give me a bit of a background about the age groups of participants here and a bit of the, what should I say, professional background and also the gender breakdown to some extent. And then I can start personalizing it.
Sure, ma'am. Basically, we are a combination of medical and pharmacy students, interns, postgraduates, and also everyone who is interested in research mainly. There are about 40 and 60% of males and females individually, ma'am, and the age group criteria till 35.
Okay, so all, within 35 years. And what did you say was the gender? 40% male?
40% males and 60% females, ma'am.
60% females. Very interesting stats. And I'm definitely going to touch upon that when I talk to you all. So thank you, Aditi. Much appreciated.
Thank you,
and when I need something, I think I'm just going to call upon you so you can kind of assist me in terms of, getting things across to the participants, etc. If they are not allowed to unmute their mic and all of that. Thanks, Aditi.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And good afternoon, everyone. And one key aspect for me this afternoon, where, now my clock says 2 o'clock. So I'm assuming I have 45 minutes with you. These 45 minutes are extremely precious for me. And the reason it is precious for me is to share a journey that I have put together for the first time in the way that I'm presenting it to you, where I'm using basically pictures to tell the story of my research and the title of Art of Research and how you craft it out for your career. So it's not scientific dry presentation that talks to you about how do you get your research done, how do you get your sampling done. I'm not saying those are dry because they are dry. I'm just saying those are technical things that you need to do the way it has to be done. But as always in life, for which I have absolute gratitude, I have the pleasure of doing certain things in a different way. And my circumstances provides me every impetus to make it that way. So this presentation is going to be very different, possibly from the kinds of presentations that you have heard, where it is all the technical things that speaks to how science and how evidence gets generated. What I'm speaking to you is not coming just from the brain here, but mainly from the heart, because it's all to do with who is this person who does this? What happens in that person's career and what happens with the mentors who come into that person's life? What happens to the different opportunities that come in that person's life? And how do things progress from there? And when things progress from there, why is it extremely important to understand the fact that if you want to stagnate, you continue to become arrogant by saying, there's nobody else who does this better than me. But if you want to progress, consciously keeping arrogance at its lowest level is what gives the wind below your wings. So, this is that particular journey. It's a humbling journey, it is a down to earth journey. It's a journey of a person who is very aware that you're born empty handed and you die empty handed. There is no need for the futile drama that goes on in between. So, here we go. So, when I share the screen, please let me know when you start seeing it.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible now.
Okay, so now what has happened is it has gone to the other monitor of mine. So, because then, my eye angle will change. Or what I should do is just stop sharing and share again and bring this here. Is this fine, Aditi?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
This is good. All right. So the title that was chosen for me was The Art of Research Will Craft Your Career. But where I would like to extend that title is it is about, is it serendipity or destiny? And if it is one of the two or both of those, then we need to look at what are the patterns to notice so that the manifestation of thoughts into action starts to happen. So, serendipity is something that we need to really be aware of because it is about finding something good without actually looking for it. Because you're on your journey for certain reasons, and then serendipity is what happens when you are carrying on with that journey. All right, so here we go. Um, Give me 1 second, please.
Sure, ma'am.
So, are you seeing the one which gives the presenter slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Where the next slide is also visible for you, right? Not the one
Yes, ma'am.
without it,
Yes, ma'am.
which is not the right thing. So, okay. So now is this better? You're only seeing the slide, which is just one of the slides, right?
Yes, ma'am. This is
Good.
better.
This is fine. Right. So there we go. So one of the first things that I would like to also talk about is, just a second. All right. So certain things that I would like to bring to your notice is at the end of 29 years of working, what are some of those simple observations that comes from a content-filled career in research? So one of the first things that comes to mind is understanding the art and science in research, because those of us who end up having the arrogance that research is only about science and forget to have the humility that research is also about the art. Research is also about the not just the ART, but the HEART, which makes it even more humbling, is when you either put energy into what is happening or you take away that energy, and the resonance between you and the nature is at completely opposite directions and doesn't give you what you manifest in your thoughts. So knowing what counts, when and how much, I think is the next big point. So what I would like to do is, at this stage, right at the start, when I have your attention, because right after your lunch, I know, it's difficult to be completely focused. The blood is rushing to the stomach in order to make sure that the digestion process is very much in place, and the brain is kind of getting tired and sleepy. So a postprandial session is what it is. So before I lose your attention, I want to give you the summary of this, because if I wait until my 45 minutes and try and talk to you about this attention, then I don't know if you're all still ready for it. So that is the reason this is coming up first rather than at the end. This should have been my summary slide, but this is my starting slide. So understanding the art and science. And when you talk about art, it is not just ART, but HEART as well. More important, knowing what counts when and how much. Just counting what matters is important in life. The rest of it, don't bother to count, because anything that brings tears, humiliation, etc., take the lessons from it, move on. There's nothing to count there. And then the rest is compartmentalized or not counted, is what I just said. The advantages of being straightforward and honest. This, for me, has been my biggest learning point, because when I was putting these slides together, I wanted to know if at all I was able to succeed in my own head and heart, not because I was comparing myself to somebody else, but I was only looking at where did I start and where am I 29 years later. So if that journey has taken place, that journey happened because of not playing petty politics. It is not about one man upship. It is not about putting someone down to show myself up. I think that's something I have learned very early on and brought me places. It took me places without fail. Not burning bridges in organizations and with people who count. If you don't like something, gracefully step back, create the entire arena for the egoistic blast that that person wants, or the people want, or the organization wants, and say, thank you, but no thanks, and walk away. There is absolutely no need to burn bridges and suffer and struggle personally and then put everybody else through that as well. More important, the lesson of either lead or follow or simply get out of the way. If in a place, if one person is not happy, then the only thing that is left out there is to get out of the way. Because being that rotten apple in the in the basket only makes all the other apples that can flourish and be happy and thrive to also get rotten. So knowing when to get out of the way is extremely important. Something else I picked up very early on is not giving up when failing, especially when failing miserably, when it hurts you and when it pains, and when you know that you don't have many shoulders to put your head on. That is when you don't give up. That is when you just persist, and grit and resilience has to shine through. And not taking professional humiliation personally, I think, is something I learned quite later on in my life, but I think a very important lesson. And I have a lot of gratitude towards my daughter who held my hand at that time and made sure that I was in safe hands. So, when being ahead of time, or when not having the support that one feels one needs, that is when you need to know that, you know, what should I say? That professional humiliation should not be taken personally, because if sometimes people or organizations or possibly even members in your own family are humiliating you, don't take it personally. Maybe there's something else that's driving that process, and it is not you and your success. So just hang in there. Using what causes the most pain personally to convert into a professional goal is possibly the biggest lesson I have learned when putting these slides together. Because while I was putting the slides together, I was looking for what are those last set of things that I'm going to talk about when talking to the next generation of people and basically inspiring you. Because for me, this session is not about bragging about what I did. Definitely not. So take it in the right spirit. This session is also not about teaching you how to do research. That is something you have already learned in the last 3 days, and you will continue to learn for the rest of your life as long as you remain in research. This session is for me to share what happens in the head and heart of a human, also a woman professional, when she is looking at a life where there is no blueprint. If I'd had a mentor, especially a female mentor, where I had seen them grow, or if I had seen somebody in my own family who had, gone through education, marriage, joint families, children, basically trying to balance everything in life when you know it is an absolute unbalanced space of life, I would have known how to do this different and better. So this is sharing honestly my journey, which had everything you can think of, whether it is pain, whether it is discomfort, whether it is misery, whether it is failures, all of that put together, which ultimately makes me the person that I am, full of strength, full of gratitude, and full of humility. I think that's what I'm going to be talking to you about. Right. Now that I've told you what is the gist of my story, I think the next thing to do is just trying to get my thing to work, and I don't know. There. Right. It is also another big part of my life, and that is to acknowledge and appreciate the leaders and the mentors and the crucial, critical roles that they played in my life. So that's what makes me telling you the story extremely important. So every time I saw that board opportunity ahead, there was a mentor who gave me that one small bit of information that I needed. Maybe at every point I didn't have a mentor who, like in the photograph here, where Obama is literally showing the posture and saying how do you hold yourself and your hand in order to get it right. Maybe I didn't have this kind of a mentor who was holding my hand and pulling me up. Maybe I didn't have them for most part of every phase that I went through. Maybe I had more of this kind of Obama here who was just pointing me to the right direction, and I knew where to look. So, and when I knew where to look, I had to go through all of these steps all over again, every single time, where it was like, I won't do it, I can't do it. And then it goes to, I want to do it, but then not knowing how to do it. And then saying to oneself, I'll try to do it. And then saying, I can do it. And finally getting to the top stair that says, I will do it. And then comes the joy. So, the other point I want to really highlight here is the more longer we take being on these steps, the less time that we end up having to achieve things in life. The shorter we make those journeys throughout our career by being absolutely mindful about this, I think that is where we have more time to not waste time here at the bottom of the steps, but to get to the top of those steps with each project that you'll be working on. What are those turning points? And I want to share start off with another personal story here. Sometimes, what is success for one is absolute failure for the other person. We were three girls doing our PUC together, and all of us wrote our CET exams. For all three of us, we got admission into BMS College of Engineering in Bangalore because we were all based in Bangalore. For two of my friends, that was their biggest success. They couldn't stop smiling. For me, it was my biggest failure because I hated maths. The fact that I got 80s in maths is only because you can get it, not because you have to like it. The fact that I didn't want to study engineering was very clear, and I'd made my father tell me that he will not force me and push me into the engineering college. The fact that I couldn't get it into medicine in Bangalore and I could only get it in KLE Belgaum was my biggest failure. The fact that my dad had just built a house and there were huge loans and could not afford to send me to KLE Belgaum because it was partially a private seat was what made it completely impossible for me to go and do medicine, which was my dad's and my first choice. And therefore, I ended up having to choose pharmacy. So, and I also ended up listening to the first criticism that came from within the family when a maternal uncle said, "Oh, you're going to be a compounder." And at that age, at 17, I had told myself, I will be anything but a compounder. And at 50 now, it's definitely the truth. It's anything but being a compounder. Now, when you start looking at what are the different kinds of ways in which research happens, until the age of 21, when I finished my B Farm, I always thought research is for some great people who landed on this planet by flying down here. It is not for simple people like me who are not good for this. So, learning to put others on the pedestal is the first thing that you have to learn to not do in life. When the M Farm happened, not knowing how research needs to be done, not having had experience of being in a pharmaceutical industry, and having to do it in medicinal chemistry meant it was just anxiety driven. It was frustration fueled. But that is where I also started seeing a lot of compassion and support, where I was able to I won't say I will never take pride for that, where I say I did things, but I was able to get things done in those 3 months. And that was my first phase of feeling that sense of gratitude, whether it was my husband who made these things happen by getting me the required permissions to go to the pharmaceutical company he was working in, whether the pharmaceutical company bought chemicals from Germany for my research, for which they had absolutely zero reason to buy because they were not getting any profits out of that, whether it was the quality control and the research and development managers who met me every single morning to tell me what I need to do and get done for the end of that day, and also gave me access to their best person in the lab who would help me set up that experiment and get things going. So everything got done within 3 months, which was a record time, not because I knew it, not because I understood what to do, but only because kind people supported me throughout to get it done. And that was my very first phase of that gratitude, that I started understanding and realizing that when things are meant to go right, those are the people who come in your life. And when things are meant to go right for others, that is the kind of person one needs to become. So, this is where my father's quote that he raised me with, one of them is, when you want to give, give wholeheartedly. Let your left hand not know what the right hand gave away, or vice versa. And I think that's what came. Then after that was Bell's palsy, and the pain that came with aborting a child. And then the gains that started happening after that was the break in the career, where I took a break of about 9 months and then came back to Bangalore for job hunting, where I should have joined a college of pharmacy, but as fate would have it, it was Karnataka State Pharmacy Council. And from November 1998, I have not looked back in life. This is when the real mentors, the mentees, they started appearing at every stage, and things kept moving at every stage. Some of the key people who have really made a massive impact on me as a person and on my career are Professor Shivanand, who is now the Registrar of Karnataka State Pharmacy Council, Dr. Ramesh Bilimaga, who I met yesterday in a meeting where I've been invited to join one of the organizations, the NGOs that he is also volunteering in and leading it. Dr. H. Sudarshan, who happens to be the most unique person I have come across and people that I have learned a lot from. This is where my journey into research started. This was in 1999 when Professor Ranjit Roy Chaudhary came to Karnataka State Pharmacy Council from Delhi, and he was supposed to address the medical doctors about rational use of medicines program headed by WHO. He was the president of Delhi Society for Promotion of Rational Use of Medicines, and he wanted a chapter to start in Karnataka, and I didn't know at that point he had me in mind as the technical coordinator. First thing he did was he sent me for this drug policy issues in developing countries intensive training course, which was happening in Mumbai for the first time. And there I am in the in the second row behind Dr. Richard Lang, who was meant to start becoming one of the big mentors of my life. Then what happened was all the research that I did for Karnataka got featured in the WHO publications, the World Medicine Situation, as references 23-24. Then I was chosen to be the technical coordinator for the Rational Use of Medicines program for Karnataka, and I led the program from 1999 to 2003. During that same time, I also was appointed as a consultant for the Karnataka Health Systems Development Project to conduct and present the drug use indicator study for World Bank project hospitals. This was also the time when I registered for my PhD and got permission from both these organizations to take parts of the work I had done for each of them to become part of my PhD thesis, because all the other things that I did in private sector was I was told that I should only focus either on the private or the public and then decide which one goes into the PhD, and I chose the public sector. And what I did for these organizations during this point of time also became the major part of my thesis and my understanding in the area of what was supposed to become my bread and butter for decades to come, because even to this day that is what is paying off for me at the moment. So you never know which door opens, and what you do at that particular point of time becomes the bread and butter of your life. So just being absolutely honest and giving your best self to it is the most important lesson I learned. After that came the phase of baking cakes for all and not taking, stealing, or snatching. Because understanding that if you're a good baker, then just focus on baking. If you're baking extra cakes because others are busy taking, stealing, and snatching from you, so be it. If some cakes are not meant to be yours to cut, so be it. Just being in acceptance of how the nature manifests, and not being petty, because equations are balanced elsewhere in life. They're not balanced by petty humans who surround you, and petty humans who take and steal and snatch your cakes. So if you are that baker, take pride and bake those cakes. This is also the time where I joined Rhodes University in 2003 and started working towards postgraduate diploma in higher education, and used that 2 years of time for reflection based building up of service learning and community engaged research. Again, I didn't know at that point, where I had just moved into a country with a child who was just 8 years old, that what I would be subjecting myself to in terms of learning, understanding, writing the thesis ultimately at the end of those 2 years, but basically building my career. I didn't know that that would become my bread and butter for decades to come. So you never know. You never know, because you live your life in prospective. You can only think back and look back in retrospective. So put your head and heart into everything that comes your way, because that's what takes you ahead in leaps and bounds, not in tiny steps. Again, all this was to do with the inaugurations and things that happened while research was building up. This was the break I got in 2007 when I went to Amsterdam to present my research that was carried out in South Africa. And both my mentors, I had spoken to you about Dr. Richard Lang, and also the other one is Dr. Hans Hogerzeil, who later became the director of the Essential Medicines program in Geneva. So because of the reinforcing of talking about what I want to do next, and the fact that I want to go to WHO Geneva to work at least for a short span of time next year during my sabbatical that I was eligible to take, fell into place. When your time is right, the right people come in your path. Be absolutely sure about that, because it is not coincidence that conference happened only in 2007. It's not coincidence that I finished my postgraduate diploma in 2007. I finished submitting my PhD thesis in 2007. 2008, I got my sabbatical of 8 months. That is when Dr. Richard Lang connected me to Dr. Kathy Halloway, who is sitting here, so that my face is absolutely visible, because she's a taller woman than I am. And that is what a mentor does. I'm just deviating here for a second, but that's what a mentor does, and I'll come back to that point just now. So he connected me to her. She was looking for a person to go and work in Geneva for a research tool on rational use of medicines. I got selected by her, and I was in Geneva for the first time, and for 3 months. And the very first thing I did was attend the World Health Assembly, where for a whole week I witnessed how 194 countries debate every single year about what needs to come out as resolutions for that year. And India being one of those member states, I really understood how the policies get made, because that entire week, the entire time, I sat and witnessed how those debates happen in Geneva. And on the last day when I was leaving, this is when I got all of these wonderful things to eat, all kinds of junk food, but absolutely delicious on your tongue, but stays for a very long time on the waist. And when I had one of the saddest phases, because I really thoroughly enjoyed that phase of my life. And I was really sad to be leaving. But I knew I have to come back home. I have a child that I'm raising, 12 years of age at that point of time. So Kathy Halloway here sat down for this photograph, and you can see my hand is on her shoulder. It's such a loving photograph that I always go back and look at to understand what a mentor does for the mentee. It is not about being that dominating, domineering, arrogant human. It's about being that humble person who says, get on with life. You are younger, you have more years to go. Let me help you build that up. And being at the receiving end of a lot of such good humans who have come into my life is what makes me extremely grateful and humble. So I will not forget what she said immediately after this photograph. She said, Sunitha, just go on, move on with life. You never know what's waiting for you out there. Good things will come your way. Just carry on. And I will give you an example of what she said and what she meant. And then life carried on. Whenever my dots connect, it's an ode to leadership of my mentors. These are leaders with vision. They supported my professional transition from Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals. And these are the people who made things happen in my life, because not because they paved the path for me, that it's only because they were there to support that journey with the information that I needed, or the support I needed, or that one kind word that I needed. Then came the MOUs to build research collaborations and mentor the next generation. So this is when the vice chancellor signed it between Rhodes University and in Belgaum, and we had 6 students come through, and I was a big part of that mentoring process that took place with students. While all of this was going on, obviously research projects was going on, publications were coming through. So when I talk about those 40 publications, those are just peer reviewed international journals. There are another 50 publications that came through, which are all in, like the Indian Journal of Pharmacy Practice, etc., which are non peer reviewed writing. So I did not count my non peer reviewed writing at all after one point. Then all of these international collaborations took place, and more people were able to come through. There was also these collaborations happening where I went and presented what happened with respect to the rapid assessment tool in Grahamstown. This was in Antalya in Turkey, and where the South African colleagues were all in one photograph. And this is one of my favorite photographs, because it was also at a very favorite point of time in my life. This was also a phase for mentee crowdsourcing. It is always about building that next generation. It is always about inspiring that next generation to say, here's your journey. You're starting your journey, begin it well, and continue it with a lot of pride and heart in your journey. So I was investing a lot of time in RAPSA, Rhodes University Students Association, which was to do with building networks within the communities and making sure that my mentees are working for the community development in areas of health and development. This was also a time when I was flying my flag, because whenever there was the International Day, it was a time to pick up that flag and walk with a sense of pride. So wherever you go in this planet, take that flag with you in your head and heart, because at no point will you stop being an Indian. No one will accept you as any different. Even if you have the citizenship of another country, the fact that you're an Indian can't be taken away, irrespective of which country's citizen you decide to become. So flying your flag high and with a sense of pride is extremely important. Now my story shifts to something that was also causing a lot of pain. For almost 8 years, when I was unable to conceive a child, and I started writing research proposals in the area of maternal and infant health. That is when all that pain that was happening in the personal life was translating itself into professional gains, because the project that I wrote was one of the funded projects by Rhodes University. It was one of 9 projects out of 21 that got funded. It was at the end of 4 years of that journey, UNESCO chose that huge project as one of the ones to be featured in their UNESCO ebook on community university research partnership. It was one of 2 projects from South Africa to be chosen. It is not that there were other projects that were bigger and better than mine. I'm sure there were lots of such projects, but luck, lady luck, smiles when certain things are happening in life. So you never know when she will smile. So just keep praying towards it, because you are not necessarily chosen because there is no one better than you. You're not necessarily chosen because you are better than others. You get chosen for a whole set of different reasons for which you will never know the reasons and the meaning. So accept it with total humility and gratitude and keep moving with life. And while I was going through all of that pain for not becoming a mother, then came my little boy, and as a preterm baby, and the kind of time that went into raising this little person to ultimately who he is now as a 9-year-old is also a part of all of that journey. So journeys have pain, journeys have pleasure, journeys have heartbreaks, journeys have those elated moments when you don't know what to do with yourself because you're just so absolutely happy. Bottom line, never give up when failing. Just because something is hurting you doesn't mean you stop walking. Just because millennium development goals are happening, it doesn't mean that as a woman I didn't want my mom development goals, as my daughter calls it. I wanted to be a mother, and that was what was hurting me. And then came along this beautiful person and fills my life and the lives of everybody around him with absolute joy, as much as there are frustrations of fighting on screen time. And doesn't mean everything is about roses. Roses have thorns, so just be aware of it. Here again is another story of where how soon my kids go to work with me. So here's this little person, doesn't want to sit in one place. And then there is the internationalization program happening, which is also to do with how do we increase international collaborations. What was the outcome of that? I was the recipient of the 2011 University of Oxford Fellowship, and happened for the first time for any faculty member in the pharmacy faculty at Rhodes University, which is more than 100, close to 70 or 80 years old. The university is about 113 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and the faculty of pharmacy is slightly lesser than that. But I was the first one who got that Oxford Fellowship. And my whole family came along with me, because here was my 2 year old who I couldn't leave behind because I was still breastfeeding him. So I didn't want to leave a child behind for 6 weeks and go away for the sake of my fellowship. So we all went. And again, mixed bag always. The bag is always mixed. It is not just happy things that happen, it is not just sad things that happen at any given point of time. They are all together, and be ready to take what counts. And not taking professional humiliation personally is one of the most important lessons. 2016, I was awarded the first full professorship for a female faculty member in the history of Faculty of Pharmacy at Rhodes. Why is this important? It's extremely important because as a woman of color, as a place where there was racism, there was sexism, there was everything you can think of, as in any other place on this planet, it is possible to succeed. Did I succeed in the first shot? Not at all. I failed, and I failed miserably. It was extraordinarily humiliating to fail, because everybody knows when you fail. Everybody, with the minute you look into their eyes, it's almost like they can read your story. You are stripped of your dignity in your own eyes. Um, that's also a time when a lot of kind people come into your life. A whole lot of people hold your hand. And my daughter's hand is something I'll always remember in that phase of failure. Then the next year I applied. There was absolutely nil debate after the dean presented my case, because the dean has to present every case, especially the one that has to move to full professor. And one sentence I heard from a colleague is how he aspires to be in that place where the dean presents your case with pride, and nobody has anything to say other than to say, yes, this person gets promoted. Because the promotion committee has the vice chancellor, two deputy vice chancellors, six deans from six different faculties, and 12 nominated members, two from each faculty. So it's not your friends alone sitting there. 2017, when I had already resigned from Rhodes, I received my research rating for as the first female academic to receive it in the Faculty of Pharmacy. It's something I'm extremely proud of. Did it work extremely well for my life? Not one bit. I had resigned from Rhodes. It was literally of no use. Was it a good closure in my head and heart? Yes, it was. Did it allow me to expand on that the way other colleagues, especially men, could have? No, it did not. Um, am I going to look at what counts? Yes, as always. Am I going to not count what doesn't count and what hurts? Yes, as always. I learn from it. I learn from what failed, and I learn to move on. And also in 2015, I was the first one in the university this time, not just the Faculty of Pharmacy, to receive the University Education for Transformative Leadership in Africa. It's given by Tufts University in USA, where 327, I think, universities have formed a consortium, and they award people here. WHO Workplace Health Promotion Model is something that I started for Rhodes, and this is when the Vice Chancellor and all the team of people that I relied upon were there in this photograph. Extremely important day. While all this was going on, I was also a mother. And these responsibilities and duties and frustrations and tears don't stop just because you are living a different life at work. So, raising the 7-year-old kid and seeing her through to become the 16-year-old who went and studied for 2 years in Belgaum and 2 years in Bangalore, and then returned to Rhodes to graduate, and then gave me the best moment of my life, the sense of pride, the sense of happiness, the sense of gratitude that I felt standing behind her and hooding her. Just showed several things that brings tears of happiness as much as tears of all other kinds that fills a person's eyes, especially a woman's eyes. When I say this, I have to bring in something else. If 60% of you sitting here today are women, please note that in 1 year, India has fallen 28 spots on the 2021 Global Gender Gap. We are the third worst performer in South Asia. And when gender based gaps are seen from four dimensions: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, political empowerment. In 1 year, India has fallen 28 spots. In 2020, India had ranked 112th out of 153 countries. Now India ranks 140th among 156 countries. This is unacceptable. Those of you who are 60% at this moment, you will not be featuring in breaking those glass ceilings and those iron ceilings that I just spoke to you about. It takes a lot of energy, lot of courage, lot of humiliation, lot of tears, lots of blood, all of it in a biological sense as well, to get to that point. So be ready for that journey and be prepared. It has gone in different ways. Kathy and what she said came back a full cycle. When I came back to India with very little energy and hope, what I first saw when I started writing a proposal was this document that Kathy had released in August 2013. I had worked with her in May 2008. And Kathy had told me, you never know what good things are going to come in your life. Just get on with life. So, among the 18 reports that she released by using the research tool I had worked on with her, one of them was for Karnataka. Right now, this is my mother document. This is what shows when I left in 2003, where was Karnataka in drug use indicators, antibiotic usage, etc. In 2013, Kathy gave me this ready made document that she had left behind for me and I didn't even know. And in 2017, when I got to India, in 2018, when I started writing research proposals in antimicrobial stewardship, this is the first document I came across. Life comes a full circle. We are no one to decide where it starts and where it ends. There are times it spirals, there are other times it circles. So just get on with that journey and enjoy every part of that journey, because you never know who is leaving that treasure for you, and that treasure is waiting for you to get on and move on with. I had the pleasure of working as a project lead for a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation project on visceral leishmaniasis, and I was the only pharmacist to have been appointed in Institute of Public Health. I led the project for a year. I also stepped down from it because of health reasons, and I moved to Mysore. So you don't know what comes your way, what gets taken when it is in your way. But mentees, what is life without them? Here was a mentee that fought to come and work with me, and there were so many reasons for me to say no thanks, because the organization was also saying that. But something kept moving, and ultimately she came back. And Saima is a mentee I will never forget. When I went to New Orleans to present the work of visceral leishmaniasis, there was Saima to receive me, because she was studying at Tulane University doing her MPH, and she took me to address all the international delegates who come and study there for their MPH. And a day I will never forget. Friends you make are extremely, extremely important, because you never know when they will come back and support you when you need it the most. What causes the most pain personally also gets converted into a professional goal. So, this was all after I had resigned from IPH. I was going solo as a consultant, and I was going solo as a volunteer in antimicrobial stewardship, only because my son had to take 14 doses of antibiotics that ultimately made him just bones and skin at the age of 7. And moving to Mysore was the most difficult but the best decision I made in life. And that is when I went back to South Africa for the hooding of my daughter. And that is also when I went back and met my friends in UCT, UWC, University of Western Cape, and both, all three of them, other than the lady on my right, came to India at different phases. And Rinier, one of my most important mentees, was here for almost a month to help me get the project on antimicrobial stewardship going. Several projects have happened, especially in the area of antimicrobial stewardship. And like I said, 40 different publications only in international journals, which vary from American Journal of Disaster Medicine to African Journal of Primary Healthcare and Family Medicine, from Southern African Journal of Infectious Diseases to Applied Environmental Education and Communication. All of these are completely different spaces and different kinds of projects. So diversity is extremely important, and this is just a sneak peek into that. This has then, after returning to India, been constantly about putting leadership into starting things in place. This is about Karnataka State Pharmacy Council, then having projects on bioethics, antimicrobial stewardship still happening in South Africa, bringing in researchers from outside like Dr. Brett Craig, and initiating projects in India in antimicrobial stewardship and leading it in different spaces between different countries, one of which is also with the University of Florida collaboration that happens consistently. It's about lighting those lamps. And when you light those lamps, a picture says 1,000 words. I would like you to all, especially the women, look at this picture and look at what 1,000 words are coming to you in your mind. We all see different things. We are all different people. We see different strengths. We see different advantages. So see what this is to you. Now that you see the blueprint of a person who started a very simple, humbling talk and walk and got to where that journey took her, look at what you want to learn from it. Sorry. Successful people want others to succeed, unsuccessful people want others to fail. It's a choice. Who do you want to be and who do you want to become? Who do you want in your life? And is your compass pointing in the right direction, like my son does for me, and my daughter holds my hand whenever I need it? So, my family, my mentors, my well wishers, my great teachers, my colleagues, my friends, and my critics. If I didn't have those critics in my life, if somebody didn't question me, if somebody didn't say, well, they don't think I'm good enough for this, I would have never made it. If I had only mentors, well wishers, great teachers, colleagues, and friends, I would not be who I am today. Those critics are extremely important. When they come in your life, they are your Mahagurus, not just gurus. So give them all the respect and love that you have in your heart, because they are making a better and a stronger person out of you. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. Be that great teacher in everybody's life that come across in your life. Whether you are in a place or you cross a person's path, leave that place and person a better place and a better person. Some people drink from the fountain of knowledge, others just gargle. So don't be the gargling ones, be the ones that drink. If you're planning for a year, sow rice. If you're planning for a decade, plant trees. If you're planning for a lifetime, educate people. I chose education. I chose health and education. And that Venn diagram of my life makes my life completely wholesome, absolutely delightful, and something I'm absolutely grateful for. And that's my last slide. This picture tells me 1,000 words and more than words that I can count. It's about the two bright sparks in my life, and they light up my life. They keep it warm, they keep it fuzzy, and they keep it worth everything I have. So thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Today's lecture was absolutely nothing but inspiring to all of us, and especially to all the females over here. and giving it a personal touch meant so much to all of us. So thank you so much for being a part of the webinar today.
Thanks, Aditi.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Are there any comments?
Um, Ma'am, ma'am, in the chat, everyone is just saying that your journey has been so amazing, and Shraddha Patnala has just added that you may not have had a blueprint of this life, but your life is the blueprint for the women listening to you. Thank you for so bravely and so openly sharing a fantastic professional and personal journey today.
Most amazing words, right?
Yes,
Do
ma'am,
you know
absolutely,
why it is so amazing?
ma'am.
Because she knows me inside out. And you know why?
No.
She's my daughter.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, this
So
is just amazing.
so when your daughter gives you that trophy in hand, you don't need any other trophies in hand. So
Absolutely, ma'am.
wish everybody, every young and those young at heart like me, all the very best in your journeys. Wish every young male and female the very best in your journeys. But as a woman professional, the most important final words from me are, you will be breaking several glass and iron ceilings that you don't even know exist. If you know they exist, then it's easy to break. If you know what are the rules of the game, they're easy to break. If somebody gives you the rule book and says, if you know this, you know how to do it, it's easy to break. If somebody gives you a blueprint of your life and say, choose what you want, easy to do. But life, like I said, is like when you're on the driver's seat, your rear view mirror is a small one. Keep looking back to get your lessons, but don't get stuck in the memories of the past, especially the pain of the past. Where your eyes should be is that entire windscreen, big when compared to that rear view mirror, and um, the mirrors outside your car, which is also showing you how to keep yourself safe. Stay safe, figuratively and emotionally, and just be strong. Don't give up. That grit and resilience is what will see you through. It is not your intelligence. There are more people more intelligent than you. It is not your exceptional hardworking skills. More people are more hardworking than you. There's nothing that will differentiate you from others at the end of the day. But that grit and resilience when things don't work and when you want to make it work is what will make that difference. So never let it go. That is the crystal ball of your life. That is your Swarovski crystal that you don't put in the air and juggle with. You keep it safe, keep it close, and keep it just alive and kicking in your life. So God bless you all, and keep prospering. I will be there to clap always.
Ma'am,
Take
I
care.
would just like to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing such a positivity to all our lives, because things are very stagnant right now everywhere around us. So thank you so much for inspiring us to be better humans, more importantly. And thank you so much for being here today.
Aditi, I have to continue that conversation. Things are not stagnating. Things are going in the wrong direction because this world is being made a worse place for you all to be living in. And you have a longer time in it than I do. So, what is the best way forward? The crisis that we have is not to be wished away. It's not going to go away soon as well because of our stupidity. From Kumbh Mela to you name it, we are doing everything that is wrong. So when we are doing everything that is wrong, one virus, one microorganism we cannot see is shining that light on everything in our lives, whether it is our environmental issues, health issues, family issues, gender parity or disparity issues, you name it, one virus is shining the light. This is not stagnation. This is that tipping point. Either we learn and move forward with humility, or we stagnate and we regress in life. So please don't stagnate now.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Your generation needs to pull everything through, and I wish you all the strength. Good luck.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.